All right, we are so back. We're so back, y'all. Anyway, hi there, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. It has been some time since I've made a video like this. If you are new here, welcome. I like to make these off-script videos where I basically share my unfiltered thoughts and feelings, yap them straight into the camera, and basically pray for the best. I hope that I can sound coherent. I hope I don't say anything too off. And if I can do those things, I would consider these videos a success. So I like to make these sort of videos because there's a lot of curated content online and no slice to any of that sort of content. I quite like a lot of it. I can see and feel the effort that goes behind it. But at the same time, I really crave this sort of content as well. The sort of content that feels like you are listening to a friend. So, I hope that this video kind of feels that way to you, like you were having a conversation with a friend. Anyway, as this video title suggests, I recently made my very first manga. Well, to be more specific, I made a fan comic or a doujin, but nonetheless, my very first manga. So if you have seen any of my previous videos or have just talked to me in any capacity, you will know that I love Pokemon. And for the past 3 months, I've just been totally immersed in the Pokeverse. So naturally, I made a fan comic based off of Pokemon. So the project is called Pokemon Dragon Rising, and it is about two brothers that live on a secluded mountain, that live on their family's dragon sanctuary, and the story basically outlines their lives as dragon-type specialists. So if you would like to support me in this endeavor, or if you just like Pokemon, I would love if you gave it a read. It is currently available for free on Tapas. I will link it below in the description. And yeah, please give it a like, a comment, share it, and let me know what you think. I would love to hear from all of you. So, this video, I wanted to share some reflections and some of the things that I've learned about the manga making process. And hopefully inspire some of you that have been considering making a manga to do so. So, a little background. I have always wanted to make a manga ever since I was a kid. I think this is an experience that a lot of people that are into anime and manga might have felt at some point in their lives. I think it's natural to want to make something based off of something that inspired you, that you loved in the past. For me, it was Inuyasha, and a lot of Rumiko Takahashi's work, actually. I really love Rumiko Takahashi. But Inuyasha was my very first manga, and I remember when I was a kid, I would try to draw Inuyasha, and I would try to think of plot lines that were similar to Inuyasha. And from there, I got very into drawing, and I got very into writing, but I never pursued making a manga because it always felt really intimidating. At some point, I would compare myself to my favorite creators, to Rumiko Takahashi. Who am I, a low-life peasant? Who am I to think that I can make anything as great as Rumiko Takahashi? It only got worse when I went online and I saw all the beautiful artwork and all the awesome stories that people would write. And yeah, I compared myself. Dang, I compared myself. They do say that comparison is the killer of joy, and that was exactly what happened here. I didn't really follow through in wanting to make a manga because I just felt like I wasn't good enough, or I didn't feel like I was ever ready to do that. So fast forward to maybe 3 months ago, I started getting back into drawing and I started getting back into writing. And I started to share some of my ideas and some of my drawings online. One of my friends who has been following all of this messaged me and said something along the lines of, "Why don't you make a manga?" And I said something like, "Oh man, I would love to make a manga. That's been like a childhood dream of mine." And he said, "Well, why don't you?" And I took a pause and I gave it a think. And yeah, why don't I? I feel like a lot of the things that I feel most proud of in life actually stemmed from this sentiment of, why don't I? When I try to answer that question, I usually find that the only thing that is stopping me from doing that is myself. And when I realize that it's myself, it actually kind of gives me some agency, because if the only thing that is stopping me is myself, then I have control over myself, more or less. And when I realize that I have control over what I can do, I usually answer with, I should try. And I feel like a lot of my favorite creators had to answer this very question of why don't I, in some shape or form. And I think they probably came to a very similar conclusion, which is, I should just try. You have to try, right? At some point, all of my favorite creators, and probably all of your favorite creators, had to just try. So the very next day, I decided to take that step of trying. And by the end of the day, I made my very first manga page, which was so mind-boggling. When I actually saw it, I was so excited. This thing that only existed here, the possibility of even making a manga that only existed here, there was now something tangible in my reality. My imagination is now connected to my reality. I can actually do this thing. So I share this story because if you are someone that has always wanted to make a manga, or has ever wanted to make anything, I would ask you, why don't you? And hopefully you come to the same conclusion of, yeah, why don't I? I should just try. So now that we established why you should do the thing, I do want to also express some challenges that I've encountered while doing the thing. So I've always heard stories about mangaka? I'm not really sure how to say that word. I'm gonna go with mangaka. I've always heard stories of mangaka really sacrificing a lot of different aspects of their lives just for their work. So I've heard people having a lot of complications in their physical health, their emotional and mental health. And I gotta say, in the time that I started making this manga, I kind of simulated a little bit of that life. So when I started in this endeavor, I realized that I was sacrificing a lot of my everyday things for this pursuit. For example, I went to the gym less, and I've been a consistent gym goer for 2 years. It became kind of not fun for me anymore, because the thing that I would rather do than the gym was draw. So I didn't go to the gym as much, and I started to really feel the repercussions of that. I started to eat more poorly. I think in the past I would cook a little bit more, and I would cook some really healthy meals, really nutritious meals, and I realized that I was sacrificing that. Sometimes I would even skip meals as well. So gym was inconsistent, but also food, like meals, became inconsistent. My sleep also became inconsistent as well. I would usually get a full night's rest, like 8 hours or whatever they recommend. And suddenly I was only getting 3 hours. And that was starting to really, really affect me. I would go about my day just kind of like in this fog, basically. But the only time I wasn't in that fog was when I was drawing. And let me tell you, I was hyper-focused on drawing. It was the only time I actually felt present in my body, actually. And I would spend all night just doing this activity. Now, I will say that all these things that I decided were deliberate choices of mine. I mean, I'm not a professional, so there isn't like a monetary stress in me wanting to pursue making my fan comic. So I'm not by any means saying that what I was doing is exactly the life of a mangaka. I'm just saying that I simulated that. And because of that, I kind of understood a little bit more of their lives. And it gave me a really good perspective on what being a mangaka, I don't know how to say this word, being a mangaka might be like. I mean, I've seen some of their schedules float online. I don't know how accurate they are, but based off of the ones that I've seen online, like, they have no time for anything except work. I mean, maybe they would get sleep. Maybe they would have like 3 hours of me time or whatever. But really, their entire lives revolved around making this manga, meeting this deadline. And I can't imagine the amount of stress that would be put on you if you pursued this sort of lifestyle. I think I've heard stories of some mangaka dying early because of how poor their physical, mental, and emotional lives were. I mean, this industry sounds really brutal. I really hope that it changes, because you can't continue making things at a sustainable level if this is the life that you're going to be thrown into, right? I also can't help but have a sense of strength and respect for these creators as well, because as I was making my own fan comic, I realized that you're not just an artist, right? You're also a writer a lot of the times, unless you're one of those like artist-writer duos. But yeah, you're an artist, you are a writer, and in a lot of ways, you're also like a director as well. Manga is so cinematic. I gotta say, the most challenging part of this entire process for me was storyboarding and paneling. Paneling was especially hard for me because I really had to think about how each scene would flow into the next and how each panel would support the other panels to make it seem effortless to read. So I spent most of my time actually doing that than the actual drawing sometimes. Speaking of which, drawing is hard. I have always done it as a hobby. I'm not a professional drawer? I don't think that's a word. Professional artist. So I'm a very slow artist. Oh dear Lord. I'm a very slow artist, and getting the ideas that I have up here is really challenging for me. I think I'm getting faster because I just keep drawing, but there are some things, some poses that I would want the characters to make that would take me super long to even achieve, because I just haven't trained my eye to really understand how these certain poses work. There was this one section of the story where I was trying to draw one of my characters in these martial arts poses. And I remember really trying to absorb a lot of martial arts movements by watching a lot of videos of it, seeing a lot of pictures of it, because I really wanted to get it right. But even then, after all of that, I still struggled. I realized I didn't quite understand anatomy that well either. But you know what? I still tried. I still tried to do it. And even though it didn't turn out perfectly, I still learned a lot from that process. Speaking of which, going back to the act of trying, I think even though you might think that you're not at the level that you want to be in making a manga, I think it's okay. I think that experience of trying to struggle drawing these martial arts poses actually reminded me that it's okay if things aren't perfect. They're not meant to be perfect. I'm just trying. I'm just trying to learn at this stage. It's a fan comic. So there's really no stakes in me trying to make this thing at the moment. And you know, I am often reminded of some creators like the creator of Attack on Titan or One Punch Man. Their drawings aren't known to be awesome, but they still had something to say. I think as long as you always have something to say, even if you feel like you don't have the skills to do it, I think you should still try to say the thing that you want to say. A lot of the times, when it is genuine and it's from the heart, it's always worth saying. So, kind of circling back to the pep talk, no matter what, even if you feel underskilled, say the thing, make the thing that you want to make. I gotta say, I'm really glad that I decided to start this manga making process with a fan comic. Reason being is because I am still trying to learn how to do all of this. I'm trying to learn how to draw, I'm trying to learn how to write, I'm trying to learn the art of manga making in general. And I think if I just started with like 100-page original idea, I think I would burn myself out more and feel discouraged even faster. There's something about this fan comic where I kind of feel like, oh, it's just for fun. Like, it's not that serious. Versus if I tried to make something that was completely original, I think I would feel too attached. You know what I mean? So, in starting with just a fan comic, I can have fun and indulge in my Pokemon obsession, but also just understand the ropes a little bit more so that if I ever do decide to make my own original concept manga, I will feel a little bit more prepared. I think a lot of people that are in the manga space actually recommend this as well, to either make a fan comic or make a one-shot or something like that. Because again, you want to understand how this medium of storytelling works. And I think you want to make things sustainable and you want to be motivated for as long as possible. So in making a few fan comics or one-shots or whatever, I think it will, one, probably build your portfolio, but also number two, give you opportunities to learn and not feel pressured by yourself. Oh my gosh, it's dark outside. We're getting there. Anyway, I hope that this video inspires you to make the thing that you wanted to make. I hope it gave you some insights on the whole manga making process. And yeah, if I have any other reflections, I will most likely share them either in another video or just online somewhere. You can follow me on Instagram, on Blue Sky. I think that's all I have right now. I think I have a TikTok too. I'll probably link it all in the description. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one.